Well, we're hunkered down in eastern South Dakota at Royal Lake Resort. The schools are closed, the interstates are closed, and we're staring outside at 30-mile-an-hour winds. It's probably at least 30 below zero. Just trying to figure out how we're going to get home. You get days like this, and I tell you what, one of the things that I like to do is scheme. Think about what are the things that I want to do this upcoming year. And for a lot of people like to do stuff up in Canada. And then obviously with the borders being closed because of the COVID, there was a lot of plans that were changed or altered. So last summer they opened the borders back up and people started going back up into Canada, especially for fishing. A lot of these traditions, a lot of these things that we did before the borders closed, people are starting to look back and a lot of people are excited to get back up into Canada. Obviously the one thing that goes through all of our minds is, wow, when I was up there before, there were hardly anybody fishing. And the people that were fishing, a lot of them were Americans. There's been nobody up there for 2 years. I wonder how those fish are gonna be biting when I can finally get back up there. And you look at a lot of these fly-in camps, a lot of these fly-in camps have been basically closed down for 2 years. And so one of the things that I'm looking forward to is getting back up into Canada. A lot of people in the upper Midwest, they're fishing Northwest Ontario, they're going up into Manitoba, maybe Saskatchewan, and there's a lot of great fishing. Now going up into Canada has changed. Going up into Manitoba, I know in the post-COVID world, you have to have double vaccination. So you have to have proof of double vaccination. You also have to download an app on your phone. I think it's called ArriveCAN or Arrive Canada, where basically you just send them a picture of your vaccination status, and then you put in the dates that you're going to be arriving, what port you're going to use, and then you have to have a negative COVID test that I think is within 72 or 70 hours, something like that. You have to have a COVID test that's negative. And so the biggest thing with the COVID test and with this whole process is that not all COVID tests are accepted at the border. So that's something important to point out. So a lot of small clinics and a lot of places do what's called a rapid test. That is not accepted at the border. I think the test that you have to use is actually like a molecular test where they take a swab out of your nose or out of your mouth. I've done it a couple times now. Took literally 5 seconds. So the test was really easy, but probably the biggest thing for me is that at least in Devil's Lake, they didn't offer that test that I am aware of. And so I had to go to either Grand Forks or Fargo to get that test. And I have to do it, I have to plan ahead and do it within the 72 hours or whatever the time frame is for crossing the border. And so you go do your test. In North Dakota, the test was free. And typically within 24 hours, you're getting your results back. When you cross the border, you show them your results. And so just a little bit more preparation, a little bit more stuff that you have to do. But there's no doubt that extra stuff's going to keep some people away. And that's fine. I'm willing to do it. I'm just thinking out on Lake Winnipeg, there's fewer people. Some of these places, there's going to be fewer fish caught. That's fine with me. I'll be there and I don't care what I got to do. So, but there's definitely a few things you got to do differently. Now, when you go up to Canada and you go on these fly-in trips, you're packing your food, the amount of stuff that you can take will vary by plane, but a lot of times it's less than 100 pounds per person. And so you look at food, you look at all the things you have to bring up, clothes, fishing equipment, fishing rods. A lot of times I like to travel with a rod tube and then take my reels off my rods. And if you don't have any hooks on the rods, the pilots are going to like that a lot more. But a lot of the fishing is pretty basic in the sense that you're not going to bring a lot of stuff up here. You just logistically can't. It's too hard to get there. And so you can't go wrong with just lots of jigs and lots of soft plastic. So you take like a 1/4 ounce jig. I like to use the long shank jigs up there. That way I can use a salted shiner, which is a big thing in a lot of these lakes, or jigs and soft plastics. The soft plastics might be maybe some type of a jerk bait, jerk style minnow, or maybe a twister tail, like a 3-inch grub, a paddle tail, that's maybe 4 inches. I mean, you're going to catch fish on all that stuff. And so the jig and plastic program, the jig and salted shiner program, that's basically going to cover 95% of anything you're going to see up there. If you want to target big pike, you might bring some spoons or some bucktails in particular, some spinner baits and some leader material. If you want to target lake trout, again, you're just using jigging spoons in a lot of cases. On some flying camps, you definitely want to make sure, just check to see if the boats have sonar or a depth finder. Some places you might want to bring a portable depth finder. At Bud's Gunisao, they've got the boats. At Aikens Wilderness Lodge, they already have the boats set up for you. So when you look at a list of master angler class walleyes out of Manitoba, Lake Winnipeg obviously tops the list, with all the big fish that are caught each winter. Coming up next is usually Gunisao Lake, okay? Gunisao Lake is just a tremendous fishery for big walleyes. So we went up to Bud's Gunisao for a week a couple years back, and I don't know how many walleyes we caught over 25 inches. I think the biggest one was just maybe a hair over 29 inches, but just a special deal. I mean, you're out there, it's all vertical jigging, sticking these big walleyes, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the water or whatever, but these big walleyes fight harder than anything I've ever seen. I mean, these fish just don't want to give it up. And so jigging below the boat, big walleyes. Obviously we're catching some small walleyes for shore lunch, but Bud's Gunisao Lake is just a tremendous, tremendous fishery. If you ever get an opportunity to do it, it's definitely bucket list material. Another awesome place, probably one of the most over-the-top lodging places I've ever seen, is Aikens Wilderness Lodge. Now, Aikens Wilderness Lodge is on a big, deep lake in northern Manitoba, but Aikens Lake Lodge is probably one of the few places where you could realistically catch a master angler walleye, a master angler northern pike, and a master angler lake trout out of the same lake. I took my daughter to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge a few years ago, and just great memories. Definitely, if you ever get the opportunity to do some of this stuff, get out and do it. You don't know what tomorrow brings. And those are a couple of places in particular that that just for me was just a wow factor. Just over the top fishing, over the top accommodations, a lot of attention to detail where you can tell that somebody spent a lot of time preparing before you ever got there, and they thought of every possible thing. That's what those two camps in particular, remind you of. And it is some tremendous fishing. And one of the favorite things about any camp, from my perspective, is the shore lunches. I mean, some people don't want to take a shore lunch, they don't want to waste time from fishing. I get to fish a lot, and so a lot of times when I'm up on a flying camp, I'm more of into vacation mode, rewind, unwind, whatever you want to call it. And so, we'll kill an hour or two doing shore lunches at times, and those are some favorite memories as well. Where you're with your friends or you're with your family, you just get to, charge the soul and eat some of the best meals on the planet. And so a lot of things to look forward to. With the borders being open, there's definitely going to be an opportunity to reestablish some old traditions.